How do you get a better finish on concrete or cement? Or what am I doing wrong? Like, you seem to be doing the right stuff. You think you're using the right tools. You just can't get a smooth finish on the concrete. What's going on with this? I think I can help you. If you have a problem getting a smooth finish on your concrete, I mean, there's so many different concrete applications. You know, what is this you're working on? Decorative concrete? Is it a new driveway? Something like that. You'll probably get a lot of advice, relating to like, oh, you got to use a mag float. Never use a steel trowel first, or use a sponge float, or, the truth is that I don't think for most applications, it doesn't come down to the tool that you're using. You should be able to get a relatively smooth finish on any concrete or mortar application using a steel trowel. But here's where I think most people go wrong. If you work with concrete for a living, you already know this stuff. But if you don't, what you're failing to appreciate is that the concrete or mortar product kind of changes in physical properties over that period of time between when you add the water, mix it all together, and when it's actually hardened. So it seems to you that it's kind of wet or plastic in a plastic state, but when you work with it a lot, you learn that there's different stages. It feels different on the trowel. It finishes different. And let me give you an example here. I've got a bucket of mud that I just mixed up a minute ago. It's white. It's the same stuff. It just happens to be for a decorative application. So this is white sand and white cement instead of gray cement and brown sand. Okay. And here we are with our very important, very fabulous project that we want to get a really smooth finish on. So, okay, the first thing we do, we'll just go ahead and form ourselves a little circle here. Obviously, this is just an example that I'm giving you here. Okay. Now, I don't know how much can pick up in the camera. It's a really, high definition camera, but you probably can't see how smooth or how not smooth this is. It's pretty smooth, but it's not. If I let it cure and set up like this would be 50 grit sandpaper at best. And this is where you're going wrong. So that wasn't working. Let's take this pool trowel here. As you can see, it's super shiny. Must be able to get a smooth finish with this one for sure. Maybe even I'll go so far as to kind of screed the top a little bit. Give myself a flat surface. Again, just a quick example here. Okay, so we did a screed of the surface, very roughly there. What's this thing for? Some applications you would take this, maybe in conjunction with a little bit of water, and very gently, little circles. And what this will do is it'll help to level out a lot of those physical inconsistencies. Again, I don't know how much that can pick up. It's a lot flatter now than it was before. Now we take this. Don't use dry trowels. Make them wet. Dry trowels are not good. There's friction and drag, and you can even burn the concrete. Like something like this, like white. If I were to put the trowel hard on edge and really push into it, I can actually physically burn such that you'll see brown stains or discolorations. So I've got my, you see, it's still just not that smooth. I mean, maybe I've got it up to 100 grit sandpaper, but as I know, it can get a lot better than that. How are those guys doing it? They make it look so easy. And that is so true, by the way. I've spent most of my life working with concrete artisans. Like, I'm pretty good. Some of these guys have been troweling a lot longer than I've been alive. And boy, did they make it look easy. It's harder than they make it look. So getting back to the point here, I just can't seem to get this smooth. And here is the point of this entire video. You have to wait. You can't go yet. I have to let this concrete set up. Right now, there's a gloss on the surface. I can see water. If you look at it, there's a sheen. And that is something that you have with freshly placed concrete. And the more I hit it with a steel trowel, the more of that water I'm going to raise to the surface. And that's not a good thing. That's why there's such a thing as over troweling. You don't want to keep just trying and trying and trying and trying. And that's what so many people do if they're not used to working with concrete. They've placed it, they tried to trowel it just like you saw me do here. I can't get it smooth. I must need to just keep trying. And that's not the solution. If we wait, I can't tell you how long because there's environmental conditions and mixed design conditions that all come into play here. But ultimately, as concrete actuates, it will lose that glossy, wet surface look and it will become matte, hazy looking. If you touch it, it's still plastic. You can still move it around a little bit. You don't want to go and reshape it, redesign it to a serious degree. But something like that sponge float, that works really, really well when you have that, matte surface, because I could do a small amount of sponge floating. I don't want to move the whole bottom, but just the surface layer. And now when I press into the concrete and I put my trowel on edge, it will get a much, much smoother finish. To describe it, it feels like the concrete compresses under your trowel, and I suppose it does. And that's what you get, the very dense surface layer, something that would be closer to 800 grit or higher sandpaper, which is to say pretty darn smooth for a hand troweled sand and cement application. So that's where I think most people go wrong. If you're new to this stuff and you're struggling to get the finish that you're looking for, I suspect you're probably just going too early. It's probably not the tools that you're using. I mean, you want to use clean trowels and things like that. If you're using a trowel that looks like that with dried cement on it, obviously you're not going to be getting any kind of decent finish. But if you just put it in, wait until it's got that matte, hazy look, and then try to get a smooth finish on it with a clean steel trowel, I think you'll have a lot better results. I hope you found this information helpful.